I've been told by everybody up on this roof that they're all off the roof. I am on the roof of exposure 4. Got fire through the roof of the fire building in the entire rear section.
Now remember, given the payday, has he been accounted for? Okay.
610B. That was the Mayday. 610B.
I'm here. We got a fire. 1.5-story, single-family dwelling. Fire shown from the second floor. Give me a second alarm on this.
Coming up to the top floor. I got people hanging out the top floor windows with a baby.
Commercial building. A lot of fire, a lot of smoke. Go ahead and strike a third alarm on my orders on this.
Got people on the front fire escape here with windows vented below them. We need somebody up there.
Yeah, let them know we got a job. I'm pulling up now. Second alarm, I got a 1-story single-family frame. Heavy fire showing from the attic.
So we're using all hands. We got one line stretch, fire on the 4th floor, second line being stretched. Primary searches are underway.
Hey, welcome back to Old School. I'm Chief Rick Lasky, along with my best buddy, Chief John Salka. And well, we'd like to start off by saying we're hoping that your summer is going great already. It's been going great for us between getting caught up on family stuff and traveling around, teaching, doing our thing, and doing some consulting work and some other things. So it's all good and busy there. I was going to ask you, John, any updates on the Salka family? I know you got one in the fire academy again, right?
Yes, we got Brian in Wichita Fire Academy. Today is is it week 2 or week 3? I can't quite remember. I think it's week 2. Doing well, really, 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 really challenging and difficult and physically demanding. But in spite of that, he's doing well, and he's talking very positively about it. So we'll talk more about that as the evening goes on. But yeah, he's doing good.
Well, I mean, you get what you produce, right? We've talked about that, with the FDNY. Actually, I had somebody ask us, and I'm sure you had too, asked not too long ago, you guys seem to talk about a lot of different departments. We brag on different departments, obviously, where we go. You always, you're always very great. I mean, you're always great about bragging about the guys from, South Blooming Grove, where you're at your volunteer department. I love bragging on my Wichita West guys. And then obviously the FDNY with you and with Lewisville with me. But, once in a while we'll get somebody say, so I hear you talk about certain departments once in a while. And why do you kind of zoom in on them a little bit, because you and I, when we'll talk, I guess we'll hit on some of these. What comes to mind is, I know we talk about Stockton, California a lot. We talk about Wichita, Kansas, obviously Lewisville, Texas, and the FDNY, and Fort Worth, and hell, Snohomish County Fire District 4, where our buddy Greg Osborne is. They kick ass out there. But I guess, John, let's start with, I mean, why do you find yourself? I mean, and let's go back to when we were teaching in Kansas. You had some time to visit with Brian, and Brian had just been notified, or was in the process of being notified, that he was hired by Wichita, Kansas. And you just kind of very innocently, right? You're staying in your hotel, and you see the tower ladder on a run across the street, and you want, of course, it's not like you run over to see the bread truck. You run over to see the tower ladder and the guys, and you always travel in incognito like you do, like nobody's gonna know who you are, and they spotted you and recognize you right away. But tell us about, I love the story behind the excitement that I heard in your voice about meeting these guys, and why you were like, these guys get it. You know what I'm saying? Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. As you said, Brian and Rachel and Layla were settling in Wichita, and he was, getting on the job, file for it, going through the steps, the process, the interview, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So finally, he gets notified it's going to happen. You and I were already doing a training event in Kansas.
Yeah.
And flying into Wichita. So I changed my arrival date, and I got there a couple of days early, and I hung out with them for a while. I was already flying in. I was already going to be in Kansas. So things worked out well as far as the traveling. But while I was there one day, I stayed at the hotel across the street. It was it was by far the nicest hotel I've ever stayed in, hands down, counting any hotel I've ever been in. And it was just very, very nice, diagonally across the street from their apartment house. And one morning, I think it was Sunday morning, now Brian was still working because he had gone to work working at a motorcycle shop. Obviously, they got to pay bills while he's waiting to get in the academy.
Right.
And he was at work that morning. But I'm looking out the window, getting ready to walk across and see Rachel and my granddaughter, Layla. And a tower ladder comes rolling up. There was a what do you call it going on in the park, like a flea market, all tents were up and people were out walking around. And then a little squad truck pulled up to it. It was a run, the lights were on and stuff. I didn't see anything really happening. I went back to getting ready to get dressed and get out there. And about 20 minutes later, I walked across the park. I looked at a few of the booths and stuff, but I was sort of heading to the towel ladder. It was a big, beautiful, brand new, like Pierce, $5 million towel ladder, whatever the heck it was. It was gigantic and it was beautiful. And anyway, so I go walking past it and I stopped to take a look. I'm standing there for like 15, 20 seconds. And one of the firefighters, I see him out of the corner of my eye, just sort of walking up towards me. And he walks right up to me. Chief Salka, is that you? I said, yes, hi, how are you? You know, I said, how'd you know it was me? He said,
how did he recognize you?
It was odd, but not odd, but it was uncomfortable. You know, people walk up to you in the street like that. But anyway, and we just hit it off very quickly. I know I went to a few of your classes and blah, 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 blah. And how cool. I said, you know what? I'm here because my son is, I think he's in the process, and I'm pretty sure he's going to get on and start the academy. So he said, really? Oh, they got a class starting in June. And make a long story short, this firefighter and then another one, and there were just two of them along with the captain. There were only 3 people on that big old towel ladder. 3 people, 2 guys in the cab and 1 guy in the back. And but they started talking. Actually, we spent a long time talking about the rig and about the saws and the compartments. He showed me so many unique things, which we'll get into a little bit later. But tools and equipment and ladders and radios, and gosh, it was quite interesting. And as I told you, it was almost like I was in a Bronx firehouse or on a street in the Bronx talking to a guy from 27 truck or Rescue 3 or something. They just had that air about them. They had that professional, trained, just oozing out of them. And everything they talked about, they knew completely. Everything they talked about, whether it was the saw or the chainsaws or they had six, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 saws on that rig.
I know you took pictures, and I told who was I telling? I was telling Ryan, my chief, when I said, I get it with John. John's like, you would not believe. First of all, he's bragging about the hotel. He goes, and he starts whipping his phone out. He starts showing me all these pictures he took. He's like, I felt like it was in the Bronx. I felt like I was in the Bronx talking to some guys in the Bronx. These guys from Wichita were freaking incredible. But how many saws? What, 6 saws?
6 saws. There's only 3 people on the rig, and there's 6 saws. And I'm not joshing about that or making fun of it. I think it's tremendous. He had a tool. He had a box, an electronic control box that he took out of the compartment. It was smaller than a helmet, but a nice size. And it was a remote control for the towel ladder. He said, I don't have to be on the turntable to operate the boom and the basket and all that other stuff. And I just went on and on and on, and I just hit it off really well with these 2 guys. So well, in fact, that later on in the day, I met them at their firehouse. I went, which was not very far away. Obviously, that's why they were first through there in that area of the hotel. And we ended up going out on a run a little bit later, and I saw how fast that towel ladder could go. And when we got off the rig, we rolled into this box. When we got off the rig, guys were getting off their rigs, and I think I found out later, and I think they said 3 engines, 2 trucks, 2 squads, a rescue, and a battalion, like for a structural fire, for a report of a structural fire, which to me is tremendous. Now, obviously, it sounds like a big response. You got to remember it's only 3 people per apparatus, but they made up for it by
right.
a bigger, better response,
right.
Not a response assignment, So, and everybody I met, and later on, Sam Hiddle, who's a captain of Rescue 2, I knew him from teaching.
Well,
Sam,
and we got to throw a shout out to him. Sam is a great company officer, great
Sam's
instructor, great
guy.
teacher, got a great following. People love him.
As soon as I found out Brian was interested in Wichita, I spoke to him, and he was very receptive and willing to help me talk to people and find out what's going on and what he might have to do next to get, to maybe make the class and stuff like that. And then we went and visited him too. Brian and I actually together went and visited him on another morning, and we ended up going on a run with him in that big gigantic rescue. And the same thing, when I got there, it was like a box in the Bronx. Companies rolling up, everybody getting off the rig, fully dressed, helmets on, chin straps on, SCBAs, 1 tool, 2 tools. I mean, slings over their shoulders with little power saws on them and stuff like that. Just a very interesting professional that had the air of a really experienced, well-trained professional fire department. I couldn't have been, I'm telling you, I couldn't have been more impressed with the operation there.
Well, and it oozed out of you when we got together in Great Bend, another great fire department there. And we did our Company Officer Academy. You know, you were just, I see you get, lit up and excited about a lot of great things, something you guys did at South Blooming Grove, or something that, you went back to and met some of the guys that you started with in the, in the city and, the FDNY, but you were just like stoked. You're like, you were whipping through the pictures so quick. I said, just send them to me, because you were going so fast through them. I couldn't see you go, and look at this tool and look at this thing. And you and I've said this before, we love being around firefighters who get it. We love being around those that love the job, right? That, like you said, you just described it. They get off the rig, they're fully dressed. We see sometimes quite the opposite, where you go, really? You get off the rig not dressed? You get off the rig without your tool? We
both told stories of our own departments on occasion, even where less than aggressive companies sometimes do that, and how nerve-wracking it is.
And we're talking about Wichita, Kansas. We're going to mention a couple other departments, because again, this goes back to that person. It's happened several times with other people. Why do we always talk about certain departments? Well, it's not certain. We talk about a lot of fire departments, don't get me wrong, but there's a few when we look for examples, why not? Now, you said something that numerous firefighters from Wichita, Kansas told you this. And we've said this before, and our good friend, Chief Alan Brunacini, used to say, when it comes to leadership, his exact words were, you can't shit up. You can't shit up, man. It all starts. And they said to you, right, they couldn't stop going on about how much they love the chief they have and how they've just flipped. I mean, since she's been in her, explain what they were saying, because they told you about their chief and everything she's done for them since she's been in there.
Right. If I remember correctly, I think it was 2017 or something that she was either selected or promoted. I can't remember. I believe she came from inside, but it doesn't matter. Actually, on another box that I went to with the rescue, the one I told you about, there was a battalion chief at that scene. And Sam said, Chief, come on over and meet the chief. He said, he knows a couple of your FDNY guys, Bobby Pressler and Timmy Klett. And they've been here before too, riding and taking pictures of. So I went over and met this chief. I apologize for not remembering his name. What a gentleman, what a nice fella, greeted me like he knew me. How you doing, Chief? Good. I follow you and I read all your stuff. It's great work, and we started talking about the job and this and that. And he was very positive. He said, you know what, Chief? He said, I hear your boys getting ready to get in the academy. He was not actually in. It hadn't started yet when I was there. He said, I hear your boy maybe in the academy. He said, let me tell you something. He said, I've been here for, I think he said 31 years or something. He said, it's never been better. It's never been better. I've been here 31 years and it's never been better. That tells you a lot when somebody tells you that. Versus,
oh, God, yeah.
They can say a lot of other things. They can say, oh, it's really good now. And but he said, it's never been better. He said, they're looking at increasing the staffing possibly, and maybe even opening up a few new firehouses here and there where response times are a little more delayed than they'd like them to be. And if you just looked around at the equipment and the tools and the helmets and the turnout gear, everything was just, in great shape, and everybody was moving about, going somewhere where they knew they were going. Nobody's wandering around with a baseball hat on or anything like that, which is, listen, nobody's perfect. Nobody does every single thing right. Nobody does it. But you and I, because we travel around the country, because most of the places we go to for a seminar or a training event or a company officer academy, most of the time we do get introduced to or brought by a fire station or a firehouse or a box location. And we do see and meet and observe so many officers and firefighters, both at work and responding and at scenes, and the really, really excellent ones. And everybody has to admit, there are really excellent fire departments. They're all, fire departments are just like firefighters. There's a couple of real top-notch people in every company and every department, and there's a couple of real knuckle draggers at the bottom. And then most guys are in between in that 80% in the middle, right? Well, it's the same thing with departments. You visit 20 departments over a couple of years or a year, and one or two or three of them are going to be like, wow, what a squared away joint. And it doesn't have to be, big department like Wichita. Wichita's got like 20 something stations. It could be a 5-station fire department that's really squared away.
Could be a 1-station
or not. Right.
Could be a 1-station.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I just remembered, it hit me because we do so much on leadership. We do so much on development. We do so much on, and, both of us always help fire departments find new fire chiefs, the right chief, to find someone that's going to come in there and take care of the guys and gals that work there and, have their best interests at heart. We always say that it's always about your people. It's always about your people. And in this case, it is about her people and, doing what she can from her perch, if you will, because, everybody has bosses above them, city managers and mayors and council. It just kind of stuck out with me. And then all the pictures, and then you get into just the atmosphere you said. I mean, and I could see it through the pictures, the pictures you took of how they store their tools in between shifts, the pictures of the tools on the rigs, the pictures of their ladders, the pictures of, the guys in the gear, just like we've shown pictures before in our class of, okay, can you tell they're ready, right? 58 truck in the Bronx, bunker pants are set up right. Here's this, here's that, radio harnesses. We've said forever about how you could walk into a firehouse and you could talk, or you could just talk to a fire for a few minutes. You could tell if they're into the job or not. And before we move on from Wichita, Kansas, one more thing I wanted you to mention. When Brian was just visiting there, he and Rachel were in town visiting, and he saw they were hired. He stopped by firehouse, and obviously he didn't go, Brian is definitely not this way. He is I'm gonna, I work my ass off and I do my own thing. But he didn't walk in there, and he purposely didn't say, hi, how you doing? I'm Brian Salka. He just said, I see you guys might be hiring, and and what was it? Was it a captain that took him?
Yeah, there was a crew there, and the crew was very receptive. He said, very, friendly, and talking about the job and saying, oh yeah, there's a class coming up, and have you done this? Have you done that? And here's the website to go to, or whatever. The details are, I don't have them exactly correct, but it doesn't matter. It was a receptive, experience that he had there. And I guess they were talking about the job. I don't know that many details about it, but I know the one thing that Brian said about it that was it was almost not a deal breaker, but a deal maker for him. At one point, the captain must have seen that. No, number one, Brian's a clean cut, squared away, young man with experience. He's got a couple of years already as a career firefighter.
Built like a brick shit house too.
Oh yeah, very fit. He was in the Marines for a couple of years. My point is, so I guess he was asking the right questions, or maybe he was giving off the right vibes as well, because the captain came over to him and said, I don't know if he put his arm around him or not, but he came over to him and said, listen, we're not looking for employees. We're looking for firefighters. So, if you're looking to take this test, that's what's going to get hired, And Brian said, when I heard that, I knew this is where I wanted to stay. And it means a whole lot. That means nothing to anybody who's listening to this, unless you're a firefighter. And then it means a lot,
Oh, it would just, when someone like that grabs a stranger, a visitor, walk in their firehouse, we've said before, some of our best recruiters are the people in the firehouses. You know what I'm saying? You want to recruit people, go out and do the right thing, look sharp. Wichita, Kansas, I love watching the videos of their fires. They host a great training symposium there, hands-on training, Wichita Hot, whatever. Anyway, to those of our listeners out there, if you're looking for any information, there's a bunch of people there, but get a hold of Sam Hiddle. Sam Hiddle will turn you on to whatever you need to do to get there for their classes they do, or for whatever. But so we love talking about Wichita, Kansas. You've heard me talk about Fort Worth has always been cutting edge. Fort Worth Fire Department, Lewisville, Texas. 12 years there. That proud and honored to have been part of that organization. Great firefighters. Same thing. Off the rig, dressed, tools, into it. You look at it. You look at pictures of them, and you just go, it's not an act. They look the role, but they play the role. Greg Osborne, our buddy Grego in Washington with his Snohomish guys, it's Snohomish Fire District number 4. They're into it. But and for some of our listeners, the videos, John, you and I talk about, like you could follow Wichita, the Kansas Fire Department, and go to fires with them. How about Stockton? Stockton, California, and the Stockton firefighters local 456, the U side, the helmet cam. Good God Almighty! I watched another one, John. I posted it. Those guys, and when I say they hit the ground running, not running. We always talk about don't run a fire ground, but what we always said is they describe it as they work at a rapid pace. It's pretty hard to find somebody when they've got a job that's just standing there. I mean, they get off the rig, they hit the ground running, they stretch lines, you know, and you and I've said this in classes before. You don't get to be like a Stockton, California. You don't get to be like a Wichita, Kansas, or Lewisville, Texas, or the FDOI or whatever. You don't get that way without training. You don't get that way without checking you, getting there, getting your gear on, getting your stuff, checking your tools, making sure your tools, knowing your tools, knowing your assignments, you know, knowing tactics and strategy. Because there's guys out there, John, they put their stuff on, and you've said it before. There's a lot of pretend firefighters. They got the uniforms, the mustaches, and the ball caps, but they're not. You know, they're not the real thing. You know,
and you and I have seen it, and I'm sure our listeners have seen it. Again, go to YouTube and all the other places where there's videos and recordings of fire scenes and fire attacks. And I don't know how many. I'm not going to quantify it with numbers, but I can't believe how many firefighters officers you see just like walking around the rig, like, and in the background there's a building burning to beat the band, burning to beat the band. This window fire out, 5 windows burning under the front porch horizontally, and there's a guy opening like 1, 2, 3 compartments looking for something, and he got out of the front seat. I mean, the guys in my job, they know what compartment they're going to. They can and reach in with their eyes closed and grab it. They know it's on the top shelf in the middle, you know, and that's what good fire departments are about. But everybody's not a good fire department. And when you see people sharing videos, obviously the videos that don't look so good are not videoed by the fire department. They're videoed by the neighbors, by the people across the street or the bus that are hanging around or responding. And those are the signs you know, those are the things that we see. And that's how you judge a fire department, by how they perform. You know? Well,
and we've talked before, you know, as much as we like to joke about old TV shows and stuff like Adam 12, you know, with the LAPD and Jim Reed and Pete Malloy and the emergency with Johnny Gage, Roy DeSoto. The one thing I was always amazed about Adam 12 is they filmed that so well that the training academy used episodes to show the recruits. You want to see how to do it well, watch a video from Stockton, right? I mean, John, I mean, right? I mean, look, you just said it, nobody's perfect. And the guys, the gals from Stockton will be the first one to say, look, we're not perfect, but holy, I mean, smokes, you look at their gear, look at their tools, look at how they, and how they communicate. The last fire just posted, John, the communication between the crews, the communication with the top side and the bottom side and the other way around. I mean, you know, where we get placed, like, is anybody going to say anything, or is anybody going to tell them what's going on? You know, the information given to the battalion chiefs, you know, because, you know, they beat them in there and they're there and the chief gets there. They're there, say, chief, I got, and I watched this one video where they're calling for an attic ladder. They got a good fire. They actually got chased out. Good freaking fire up top. And there was a point where they go, we got to back out of here. Like, we all, you know what, too much fire, and we got to back out and hit this from the outside or whatever. And one of the crews called for an attic ladder, and the helmet cam firefighter I'm following that's in his video, he's in his rapid pace. And he goes up, he does an about face, you know, turns back. He wasn't the one who asked to get the ladder. He heard on the radio somebody call command for a ladder. He turns around, you watch him. He's back, beats feet to the pumper, pulls the, he takes off. He goes, hey, I got the attic ladder. And then he goes, where other places like, well, no, did someone get the attic? No, someone got, okay, Orange or 2, go ahead and we'll assign you to get the attic ladder for, you know, where guys they're like falling over each other to work as part of a team, right? I mean, just, you know.
Another thing that's real important, and actually I just wrote an article very recently and just sent it in for an upcoming magazine. And the article was about the rapid fire attack, how, you know, firefighting is a time sensitive event. We turn out quickly at the firehouse, and I'm not saying we're going to tear ass there, you know, on the highways and be dangerous, but you do got to try and get there as quickly, as rapidly, as swiftly as possible. We don't want to waste anything. We're not stopping at red lights waiting for it to, you know, for it to time out to continue our response. So you want to turn out quick, you want to get there quick, and you want to snap into action quick. It's time sensitive. And it's hard to believe that there's people that you see walking, and you and I turn to each other and say, wait a minute, maybe, is this a training video? Maybe this is a training video. Maybe that's why they're walking slow. And all of a sudden you look and you say, holy crap, this isn't a training video. This is how these guys really walk when somebody's house is burning down. When somebody's stuck on the second floor, there's guys walking around like they're at a training drill at the fire academy. Like, I'm not suggesting running, because there's no place for running unless there's a dog running after you or the building's gonna fall on you. But there should be a bounce in everybody's step. You should be hustling. Hustling is a great word. You should be hustling to every position you got to get to, whether you're getting to the roof, whether you're climbing up a ladder, you know. But
you can't hustle in the right direction, right? And we'll go back to this, unless you know your shit, you're training, right? You said it. If you have to go through compartment, you know, my volunteer fire department has one pumper, one engine. Everybody in the department should know where everything is in every compartment. It's not like, oh God, are we looking at engine 2 right now? Are we looking at engine 5 or engine 17? We have one engine. Everybody should know where the stuff is on an engine. And like you said, you can't hustle, right? You know, that doesn't happen unless you're dialed in. You know where everything's at. You know how to use your tools. You step off the rig and you're ready to go to work right now. There's no delays. You drove red lights and sirens. Like you said, I've never understood that. You drove air horns, all this stuff. You drove all that way. And then you get there and you're walking around and that's somebody, like you said, that's somebody's home that's on fire, you know? And again, we're not professing running and tripping over shit and falling and doing, but I like that phrase, working at a rapid pace. You said hustling. I think that's the same thing,
right.
You know, but you can't do that unless you train. You can't stretch a line into a building rapidly and efficiently unless you practice stretching lines. Go ahead, buddy.
I'll tell you another thing I saw, and again, I happened to see it at Wichita, but I've heard it many times before. But I was at one of the companies one day and the door was open, and inside the office's door, on the door, where a lot of places have a little stop sign or a little reflective, you know, stickers,
right.
there was it was bigger than a bumper sticker, and it said, "Expect fire, expect victims." And that translates into the same exact message that we were just talking about hustling, about being quick, about being swift, about getting there, about knowing what you're doing and going and reporting to your position right away with the right tools. Expect fire, expect victims. I mean, how simple could the message be? Could it be much more simple than that for a guy with 2 weeks on the job or with a guy with 2 decades on the job? The message is the same.
John, how many times have we said this before? If you want to cut response times, get out the door quickly. You don't do it by driving fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow. Get out the door as quickly. We're not talking about tripping over stuff, as quickly as you can. And that means no one, and some guys, it's like almost like they think it's beneath them to train, even like new guys putting their gear on. And I'll tell you, I'm proud of the fact, I go up to my volunteer firehouse at Wichita West, and there's a group of guys, Jim Spears and Bradley Carver, and you look and they're on the floor and they're like, ready, go. And they're grabbing the gear out of their locker, putting it all on, everything else. And then they're getting on the rig, jumping and they're packing up, and then beep, all right, done, start over. And then they're going, so how fast should we go? And I told them, I said, well, my best buddy's son's going through the Wichita, Kansas Fire Academy, and they want them to be able to be fully donned with their gear, air pack, operating, seal check, purge, all that stuff, gloves on, in under 45 seconds. Well, yeah, if you look at the NFPA standard, you're supposed to be able to put everything on. And that's not just that, that's check your seal, purge, bypass, all that, blah, 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 gloves, raise your hand under 2 minutes. Or if you're already geared up, you'll put your SCBA from a compartment or from the jump seat in under a minute. But these are brand new firefighters that are always saying, you need to get that under 45 seconds. They're already telling them, you know what? This is how I read it, John. The reputation of this fire department, or any of these departments we're talking about, didn't happen on accident. It doesn't just all of a sudden, you didn't walk in and go, yeah, back in the 50s, these guys, and that's what. No, reputations come and go. You know that. Great fire departments will become crappy fire departments under bad leadership with bad people, don't give a shit about the job. It happens with the greatness by people who want to do that. The whole competition breeds champions. We want to get water to the fire, not craziness, but we want to be able to get water faster. We want, you and I've said this before, we're both very competitive about, we don't want to be picked second. I want Chief Salka to pick me first. I want to stretch a line into the building faster than the next engine, not because there's as much of competition, because I want to be the best at what I do. I don't want to be just okay, right?
Absolutely. And another thing, I don't want to call it an angle, But another thing that promotes getting dressed rapidly and getting on the rig is like in Sapling Grove was one of them. FDNY always was one of them. Anywhere where I ever worked, the guys had their boots with the suspenders, the coat hanger with the radio on top of it, the helmet inside, upside down with the 2 gloves. But at Sapling Grove, the volunteer outfit, everybody puts their stuff back on the racks. Helmet on the shelf, coat on a hanger, boots on the bottom shelf with the bucket pants. And you know what? We get dressed inside and we board the rig outside. The rig always rolls outside and stops first. That's where everybody gets on the rig. Always has been that way. And if guys want to make the run and get a seat, they get dressed quickly. That's another great promoter of turning out quickly and getting dressed quickly and getting geared up quickly is you'll get a seat on the pumper. You'll be able to make it out there. And you know, some officers, and I count myself as one of them. When I was a captain of 48 engine, if you didn't make the rig, that you were standing in blue smoke on the apparatus floor when we left. I didn't wait for anybody. You know, it wasn't like we were trying to leave anybody there. And I must tell you, it didn't happen very often at all. But I'm among some other officers, and I know some other guys whose names are a little bit more well known than me. If you didn't make the rig, you were out of there, and you didn't have to work too many shifts in these great busy places to know you better get down there quick when a run comes in. You know, this career department now, volunteers as well, but career departments should be expected to get out even faster. And you know, if you're getting dressed before you get on the rig, both of those things go hand in hand.
Well, and not to get back into the whole every second counts, but every second counts. And I'm kind of, sometimes it's fun to sit back when we're teaching together and you talk about, you know, they're not our seconds. And I see some people in the audience, it's kind of like, you know, the little light bulb starts to glow and you see them looking, going like they're just, because I think sometimes a lot of guys forget that. I don't think it's impressed upon them, you know, that we want you to take care of the firehouse and do your job and blah, blah, blah. You're there for each other and the men and women that work with you, blah, blah. But sometimes I don't think it's emphasized enough that, look, there are people laying in beds right now that are in the smoke. There's some mom on the floor in the kitchen, you know, or some dad that somebody's trying to do CPR on them till we get there. Somebody's not breathing.
I went to that seminar out west, and I sat in on a couple of the programs, both before and after mine. And I'm sorry I can't remember the fellow's name, but there was a guy there that did a program on just that, and all he was really talking about was how fast you could put your face piece, how fast you could don your face piece, from it being off to it being on fully with your helmet and gloves on and chin strap on. And he went through the whole, it was a video, and he talked through it. And he said, you know, so we saved a second here. And then we decided to just throw the helmet back, leave the chin strap hanging around on it, get dressed, then just pull it up, rather than take the helmet off to do it, then pick it back up again. Then we decided, you know what, if you get good enough with your gloves on, it saves you almost 4 seconds of putting your gloves on when you're done. And then he had the face piece. It was like 5 or 6 straps for the face piece. He left 2 of them tightened to the degree that they had to be tightened when he wore it. And he was able to get it on quickly with the 2 already tightened. And now we just had to tighten 3 more, another minute and a second and a half saved. And as he was going through this whole thing, he brought it down, and I'll make the numbers up. You know, he brought it down from 18 seconds to 12 or 11 or 9. And his guys are like, hey, Cap, hold on a second. This is wonderful stuff, and we're all into the job. We love getting dressed quickly. Really? Really? 9 seconds? Like, what's the big deal? He said, hey. And I'm telling you, when I heard this, I was sort of shocked because I had never really actually been physically told it. He said, hey, those 9 seconds are not yours to waste. Those 9 seconds belong to the people inside. That little girl laying in a bedroom above the fire, the grandma laying in the hallway who didn't make it to the front door. 9 seconds is 9 seconds. 9 seconds less breathing smoke and toxic fumes and all the other stuff. And then you can multiply that by how long it takes you to find that thing in that compartment, how long it takes you to pull the hose off, how long it takes you, like, are they going to charge this line or what? They've been there for 2.5 minutes. They haven't flowed any water yet. All those little separate tactics and operations, 12 seconds delayed here, 9 seconds delayed there, 9 second delayed here. All of a sudden you put it together, somebody's stuck inside that building for another minute and 10 seconds while you're, I don't want to say twiddling your thumbs because I'm not being critical about it, but while you're sort of dragging your ass around a little bit and not hopping to it, you know?
Exactly. And, you know, I mean, I don't think it's that complicated, John. I really don't. To be great at what we do, I really don't think it's that complicated. Now, it takes some effort to hone your skills, right? Your craft. It takes time to be that good with your air pack and your gear.
A lot of
training. We talk about training. Every day is a training day. Train. We understand it. What I'm saying is, I don't think it's that different. It's not like you have to ask permission. And I think some guys, it's almost like they think they have to ask permission to be great at what they do. You don't have to ask permission. You know what? Do it. And I don't care if the rest of your guys at your shift or at that particular volunteer department are lazy asses. I don't care. You know, be the star, be the shooting star, be the one that everybody, you know, the young guys, right, John? They're looking, going, man, you see, I want to be like him. I want to be, you know, like Tim Klett. Did you see that? He's our lieutenant, and he beats us to the rig. And look at him. He's always dressed. He's always got my Lieutenant Bill Allen, right? It's like, God, we even did a show. We did a show.
Pete Lund, if you didn't get off the back of that rescue fully dressed, he was gone already. You'd see him just going through the front door. You had to stay up with him, you know, and that was a motivating factor right there.
And we talked about it. We did that one show, Be Like Tim, about Tim Klett. You want to be a great company officer, be like him. You want to be a great firefighter, trade your ass off. Look, you can be all consumed with baseball and fishing and all your other stuff. The moment you hit the door, like we talked about, you be all in, man. Jump into the deep side of the pool and be part of us, and do everything you can to be the best you can, because there's people out there that you actually put your hand up probably and said, I want to serve and protect, that are counting on you. You know what?
And I've always said it, and you've heard me say it, and a lot of other people say it too. You know, it's very simple. It's not very polished, but it's true. You know, once you arrive at the scene of a fire, get your ass in there. You know what I'm saying? You know what you got to do. You know what tools you got to do. You know what line you got to pull. Get your ass in there. Forget all this fumbling around outside. You should hit the ground running, man, not running. You know what I mean? Yeah,
exactly. And again, this all comes back to everything we've talked about with Stockton, California, incredible fire department, plus great guys and gals. We love them. You know, Wichita, Kansas. We talk about FDNY, Lewisville. We mentioned Snohomish, Fort Worth. Golly, man, we could keep going. And we talked about the apartments.
Timmy's boys down there in Baltimore, busy place down there.
Baltimore City, Baltimore County. I mean, there's some great. God, there's just under 40,000 fire departments in the United States alone, and there's thousands more in Canada. You know, where, like we've said before, the only difference between the Canadian Fire Service and that in the States is a blurry line on a map. You know, so we've got great fire departments in all places, but you want to be great, then get after it. You want to be great, then make it happen. Make a decision right now that you're going to be the best you can be. Make a decision right now that you're going to train your ass off.
And set the example. Set the example.
Be the leader,
not the follower. You know,
like you said, expect fire, expect victims. If you do that, then you know your tools, you know your nozzles, you know everything on your rig, and you know what's you know your PPE, you know your gear. You're into tactics and strategy. You've got that coordinated. You got that aggressive step. Not reckless, like we talked about, but you're aggressive in what you're doing, the way we get off the rig quick and off we go. The bottom side's talking to the top side when it comes to work. Like I talked about that video I just posted, shared from Stockton. The great communication between the roof crew and the interior crews and the battalion chief, you know, the training, the leadership. You talked about the chief from Wichita, that the guys are like, man, you know what? I'm telling you right now, things have changed. She's fought for this for her. She's fought, you know, I'm just saying, great bosses take care of their people and do great things for them, you know. And I've always said before, it's easy to do, you know, good things with great people when you're a boss. And it comes down to what you said. You want to be great, act like a great firefighter, be that great firefighter, be ready, you know.
You know what I say encompasses the whole thing. Start your own parade, right? Start your own parade, man.
There's your next hey, there's another article for you for the back page of Firehouse. Start your own parade. There you go, buddy. Hey, so sum it up for us. Let's finish this one off. We've been talking about just a smidgen of great fire departments in this country, but some of our favorites, like we said, I think a great title for the show would be why we talk about Stockton, Wichita, Lewisville, and all that stuff. Tell that young firefighter, it's like, well, why do you talk, Chief? Why do you talk so much about Wichita, Kansas, or Stockton, whatever? Sum it up for them. What do they have to do to get there themselves?
You know, it's not so easy. Some places have been that way forever. Some places are just turning that way. Number one, it's a bunch of people that really like the job. Number two, it's senior people that promote it and stay interested in the job, even when they get a little bit of time and they break in. They're great mentors for the new young people. It's great leadership. It's officers that know what they're doing and train their people. And it's the upper echelon of the fire department that pays attention to the bottom half of the fire department that's doing all the work. You know what I'm saying? Some people at headquarters like you said, oh, if it wasn't for all the people, it'd be a great job, right? But all kidding aside, sometimes the top of the fire department paying so much attention to city hall and tax rates and budgets, which is all important stuff. And sometimes they forget about the engines and trucks and the firefighters that are out there and keeping them motivated, So
Yeah, I know
it's a bunch
chiefs.
of things all together.
I know chiefs in small departments that never even show up at fires. And you know what? And that's good as long as they're good at their paperwork and budgets and writing policies and, looking good in your uniform and, all that stuff. I mean, as long as there's that side of the business, but, you got to be into the job and you got to be into your people if you're looking for great things. So, well, hey, kind of us just, this is actually like us, like we talk about, this is you and I having a conversation over breakfast or in the hotel lobby when we go back to each other, we'll go, hey, and we start talking like you did when we were at Great Bend, Kansas, about you just unloaded about all the stuff you saw in Wichita, Kansas, and how impressed you were, on a very short visit, so that was it. We talked about that. You want you want to see some great videos, follow Stockton Firefighters Local 456, follow Wichita, and watch them and go, okay, I need to work on that, or I need to work on that.
And maybe next year we'll be talking about your fire department rather than a couple of our favorites that we already recognize.
Exactly. And for our listeners, please, there's a ton of great fire departments out there.
Absolutely.
They are. It'd be impossible to mention them all, but we mentioned some of our absolute favorites. So John, if they want to get a hold of you, what's the email, buddy?
Chief John Salka at gmail.com.
And I'm Chief Lasky at gmail.com. And we appreciate you joining us and spreading the word. We get a lot of folks come up to you and say they love listening to old school. And don't forget, go back, tell some of your younger guys to start the beginning. We've been doing these shows for years now. We've got now hundreds of thousands of hits, views, whatever you want to call it, on the social media and different things with these shows. So we thank you enough. If we ever do anything for you, don't hesitate to give us a call, shoot us an email, or go to our websites. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. With that, we always end all of our shows with a very important phrase, and that's please keep the men and women in our armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. And probably the most important part of what we end with, never forgetting means never forgetting. Thank you. God bless you. And we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.